Promotion takes up time, writing takes up you. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tara East. I'm a writer, blogger, YouTuber, and the author of the mystery novel Every Time He Dies. And this week's post is going to be a little bit short because it's basically a writing pep talk. What I want to talk about in this pep talk is, I guess, resilience. I'm sort of making this up a little bit on the fly, but I wanted to talk about the reality of writing where you can work on a project for a really long time, and there's a big risk that at the end of that, nobody may want your book. So last week I watched a video with an author who used to have a pretty big following on YouTube, but then they quit the platform 2 years ago for mental health reasons, and they have no plan on returning to the platform. However, they chose to release a private video to their newsletter subscribers as a way to give a bit of an update on what they'd been up to. In that video, they shared that they had spent the past 2 years writing, revising, and then submitting a new novel to publishers. The novel was in a different genre to what they were known for, but the premise of the story came to them with such intensity that they knew they had to write it. So they put everything they had into this novel and into this idea. They loved the book, their agent loved the book, and it went out on submission and it got picked up by a publisher. The author had a phone call with the editor at the publishing house where they spoke about marketing strategies and even potential release dates. And then, out of the blue, the author got the news that the publishing house actually wasn't going to take on her book. Now, this is the risk of being a writer. You may spend years working on a novel that nobody wants. Writing fiction isn't like nonfiction. In nonfiction, you write a book proposal, and then the publishing house buys your book based off that proposal, and then you write the book. But fiction isn't like that. You have to come up with the goods first. Now, what is so awful about this particular story is that the writer was given the green light only to be stopped by a stop sign further down the road. Now, this issue is not strictly related to gatekeepers and publishing houses. Yes, traditional publishers may reject your work, but self-publishing is not like a backup option. It's a very active and intentional choice, or at least it should be. You can self-publish your work if you want to just get it out there, but there is no guarantee that it will sell, especially if you don't have a platform or a willingness to invest in paid advertising. Finding readers is a way to complete the writing process. After all, finished books are products, but getting published cannot be the only reason why you write. The kind of disappointments that I mentioned earlier are really common, but there aren't that many people talking about this. Sometimes we do have big authors mention the 2 or 3 books they wrote before they had their big break. But we never really hear this type of rejection story from mid-list or mid-career authors. I mean, in one way it kind of makes sense because authors have a reputation to uphold, and if you start talking about the fact that even though you've had 10 books published, your 11th one was rejected, it can be kind of tarnishing to that reputation. And I mean, it's already hard enough to convince readers to part with $15 for a paperback. We don't need to add any resistance to that by making them doubt our quality of skill. Brandon Sanderson, the big science fiction writer that we probably all know, wrote 13 books before he landed a book contract. Now, you can't write 13 novels if your only goal is to get published. I'm pretty sure you'd lose steam after like 2 or 3 because it takes a lot to write a book. I'm not going to tell you why you should write a book or outline any specific motivations that I deem morally acceptable, but in general, it probably should have something to do with process. You can have big, ambitious goals and dreams for your book, but the publishing of a book is such a small process of the whole writing thing, and the promotion that follows a new release is incredibly brief, maybe a couple of months if you're lucky. Promotion takes up time, writing takes up you, your headspace, energy, and love. When writing is the reason for writing, you can't fail. The lessons learnt from unpublished manuscripts become invaluable, golden. The pages are gifts you've given yourself because you were brave enough to commit to a project. The manuscript may not lead to a measurable external outcome, but you will experience internal benefits from having written it. The only thing we can do as writers is commit to our creative urges and compulsions, follow the heat of a story, and leave questions of publication and marketability for later. The story must always come first. Now, I'd love to hear from you. How do you frame this need for publication? Do you use publication as your sole motivation, or is it one form of motivation for your writing practice? I'd really love to know where it sits for you, so leave a comment below and tell me all about it. Now, if you'd like even more writing advice, you can of course check out the other videos on this channel. There's a bunch of them. Or you can head to taraeast.com and dive into the archives. While you're there, please consider joining my email newsletter, because when you do, I'll send you a free gift. Plus, you'll get an email in your inbox every single Thursday morning, including links to that week's blog and video, a quote of the week, some writing resources I've recently enjoyed and think you will too, as well as some tidbits that I only share via email. Thank you so much for being here again this week. I really appreciate it, and I hope this little pep talk is inspiring and uplifting and that it gets you all excited for writing. Stay safe, stay calm, and keep writing, because the world actually does need more books.